You know, in any tech company, there's this constant tug of war between moving fast and staying secure. It's a real challenge, right? How do you give your teams the power they need to build and innovate without just, opening the floodgates to chaos? Well, today we're going to look at an operating model that tackles this exact problem head on.
All right, let's just dive right into the heart of it. The entire model we're about to unpack is built on one single core rule. It's one idea that completely flips the traditional approach to system access on its head. And the rule is simple. Admin is not a default.
And there it is. That's the fundamental principle. So, what does that actually mean? It means nobody just gets to be an admin. Your job title, how long you've been at the company, none of that automatically grants you the keys to the kingdom. Instead, admin access becomes this temporary capability, something you're granted for a very specific reason and only for a limited time. It's a huge shift from who you are to what you need to do right now. And what's so powerful about this one little rule is how it instantly changes the conversation. We move away from this world of implicit trust, where we just hand over the keys and hope for the best, and it forces us to ask some really critical questions. Why do you need this power? Where do you need it? And maybe most importantly, for how long? It becomes a model of explicit, auditable purpose. So why make such a radical change? I mean, why go to all this trouble? Well, to really appreciate how elegant this new model is, we first have to understand the chaos it was designed to replace. Let's take a quick look at the old way of doing things, which, let's be honest, was often inconsistent and pretty dangerous. In the past, getting admin access could be a total free-for-all. It might depend on which team you were on, who your manager was, or frankly, just how well you could argue your case. And this created this messy, dangerous patchwork of one-off exceptions. It led to huge security gaps and environments that were all over the place, where nobody was really sure who had access to what. The new way just cuts through all of that noise with absolute clarity. You've got an explicit model, access that's time-boxed and expires on its own, and a crystal clear process if you need to escalate. Okay, so how do you actually solve that chaos? Well, the solution is surprisingly elegant. Instead of having one blunt rule for everybody, this model gets smart. It recognizes that not all environments are created equal, and so it tailors the rules based on the purpose and the risk of each one. First up, we've got the development environment, or dev. You should think of this as the workshop, the R&D lab. This is where your developers need total freedom to build, to experiment, and yeah, sometimes to break things. The main goal here is rapid innovation, so the whole model is set up to prioritize speed over super strict control. All right, so once an idea has been built in the workshop, it moves over to the test environment. Think of this as the proving ground, like a crash test facility for software. Here, the goal completely shifts from innovation to validation. Does it actually work? Is it stable? This is where we make sure everything is high quality in a controlled setting before it ever gets near a real user. And then, only after it's passed every single test, it's ready for production or prod. This is the public highway. This is the live system that your customers depend on every single day. And here, the priorities flip entirely. Stability and safety are everything. There's literally zero room for error. And this table, this is where it all comes together. This is where those analogies become concrete rules. Just look at the dev row. The default access is admin bounded, which means developers have a lot of power, but within some defined guardrails. And the risk posture is clear. Speed is more important than control. But now, look at test and prod. The default for both is non-admin. In test, you can get a temporary, limited version of admin. They call it admin light if you have a specific reason. And in prod, our public highway, it's break glass only. Admin access is treated like pulling an emergency fire alarm because stability is the absolute non-negotiable anchor. Okay, so the rules for most people seem pretty clear, but what about that one rule that can change all the other rules? Even in a system this carefully designed, you have to have a plan for ultimate power, and that's where the security admin role comes in. I mean, really, this is the role that holds the keys to the entire kingdom. So how does a model that's built on limiting power handle a role that has, in theory, unlimited power? Well, the answer has to be incredibly strict. And as you'd expect, the rules here are even tighter. I mean, look at this. In dev, a specific named user can get this access, but for no more than 24 hours. In test, it's conditional, also strictly time-boxed. But in prod, the default answer is an absolute no. There's no button you can click. There's no automatic way. The only way to get this access is to go through a formal process that involves both the platform and security leadership. It's a manual, human-gated process, and there are absolutely zero exceptions. So, putting a model like this into place is obviously a lot of work. So, what's the payoff? Was it worth it? Well, the benefits are huge, and they directly solve all those problems from that chaotic old way.
The outcomes are exactly what you'd hope for. First, you get speed where it matters most in development. You get a massive security win, zero standing admin access in production, which just wipes out a whole class of risk. You get a clear audit trail for every single elevated action. And maybe best of all that ambiguity is just gone. No more negotiating, no more confusion, just a clear, consistent model for who gets access and why.
And this isn't just some nice idea on paper. This is a practical model, and it aligns perfectly with enterprise security best practices. What's crucial, though, is that it's a living system. It has quarterly reviews of all access, so it's designed to adapt and stay effective for the long haul.
In the end, while this whole model was designed for a tech platform, the core principle is universal. You have to be intentional with power. Govern access not by someone's title, but by environment, purpose, and duration. So I guess the final question is for you. Where could a clear model for access be a total game changer in your world?